Hello, dear listeners. Before we dive into today's conversation, I just want to give a gentle note that in this episode, Tara shares her journey, which includes some sensitive topics such as childhood trauma, eating disorders, suicidal thoughts, grief, and abuse. So I just want you to take care of yourself while listening. Step away if you need to, come back when you're ready, perhaps skip it, whatever is best for you. This space is always about healing, growth, support. So just keep that in mind and we'll get on with the show. Hello, and welcome back to Cozy with Chelsea. I am Chelsea, your host, and today I have my guest, Tara Wiskow, on. She is an intuitive energy healer, a life reinvention expert, and she helps women break free from self-abandonment, self-sabotage, and the cycle of people-pleasing. After transforming her own life, losing 220 pounds naturally and overcoming deep emotional struggles, she now guides women to heal by releasing limiting beliefs, negative emotions, and blocked energy that keep them from stepping into their authentic power. Through her She Rises program, Tara helps women unravel old programming, upgrade their mindset, and uplevel into the life and body they desire.
Oh my
Welcome to the
gosh.
show, Tara.
It's so fun to hear your bio being read by somebody else and just reminding you of how far you've come. Thank you so much. And thank you, Chelsea, for having me today as a guest on your podcast. I'm really excited to get to spend some time with you.
That is quite the bio. So, and it sounds like you've had a large transformation. So maybe if you can just start by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I would love to. I always get caught up here because it is quite the bio with a lot of layers of experiences and trials and trauma throughout my life, which I've now learned to see as a blessing because it's allowed me to become the woman that I am. And that's why I can have the impact that I do in the lives of women that I'm blessed to get to heal and coach and spend time with. My journey started when I was 8 years old. I didn't realize it at the time. And it took me a number of years to realize that it was that moment at 8 on my birthday party during our Easter celebration, where both my birthday and Easter were being celebrated. Our yard and our house was full of family. And my aunt, who is developmentally delayed, she shared a secret with me that she didn't know it was a secret. To her, everything was shareable. And so when she walked up to me and said, Tara Lynn, I saw your dad today, my response was, I know, he's in the house. I thought it was really odd. And in the next moment, she said, not your dad, Junior, silly, your dad, Bruce. I didn't have a dad, Bruce. My dad was Junior. And in that moment, when I discovered as days followed that my biological dad had elected not to be in my life and I had this big secret that had been kept from me, I started to shift my identity. I started to show up as someone who I thought I had to be in order to make sure that my mom would always love me and never leave me, that my dad, who was now my stepdad, would never decide that he didn't want me. Anybody and everybody in my life, I saw them as somebody that I had to earn their love, that I had to earn their acceptance. And so that time of my life is where I began to become whoever I needed to be in order to belong. Because that went into my friends groups, that went into my relationships. Eventually I turned to food. And the reason that I've come to understand, Chelsea, why I did is food never disappointed me. And honestly, I get emotional when I talk about this still because food was my best friend. I always knew what it was going to taste like. I always knew that it was never going to disappoint me or reject me. It was always going to be exactly what I believed and needed and knew it was going to be. And so it truly replaced relationships for me and became my safety net. And from there, turning to food and allowing myself to be fully immersed in it whenever I was angry, sad, feeling lost, scared, unsure of how to move through something, that led to morbid obesity of reaching 338 pounds. And in that moment, when my doctor said, Tara, you are morbidly obese and you need to start looking at how to turn this around. We need to start doing something different. What always is brought to your mind of how to navigate that is eating better, moving your body. It's about the physicality of shifting it and focusing on the nutrition and the physical piece of it. And while I tried to do that mentally and emotionally, I wasn't there. I wasn't in that level of loving myself enough to be able to actually show up in the ways that I needed to. And that led to deep depression and anxiety, which then brought me into eating disorders and eventually suicide. And moving through that time of my life was such a deep, deep time, dark time, as you can imagine. But it also really brought me into an understanding of who I was as I got to the deepest depths of being at rock bottom and coming to that moment of knowing that I had a choice. And that moment was when my middle son saved my life in my final suicidal attempt. Him asking me, "Are you going to die, mama?" was the moment that I realized I had a choice in this. He was asking me if I was going to live or not. And until he asked me that question at 5 years old, he had the insight to ask that powerful question. I had never thought to myself that I had a choice in this. I believe that life was laid out as it was and I had to go with it. And if I felt like I was supposed to end my life, it's because I was supposed to. I didn't realize that I could actually go within and I could choose something different for myself. And so, in that moment, as I came out of that epiphany moment, I started to show up for myself in a way that I never had. I started to speak love and I started to speak these positive affirmations to myself, looking at myself in the mirror. This is before I knew that Louise Hayes had mirror work. I started to do my own mirror work and then later was connected with her. And that brought me into some even deeper healing and allowed me to take my inner world into such a beautiful, beautiful sacred space. And I traveled that journey for quite a few years, losing 220 pounds. And then 2 years and a few months ago, I lost my baby sister to cancer. And in losing her, I realized that my outer world looked like everything was put together and everything was fantastic. And in that moment of being in such deep, deep grief, 5 days after her burial service, I realized that my inner world had always been chaos. I was just making it look like I had everything together because I had this body. I was a bodybuilder. I'd lost the weight. I was the success. And while my outer world looked like I had it together, my inner world was still completely crashing every single day. And I was still lost and not sure of who I was and not sure who I was supposed to show up as. And that's when I really stepped into the true healing of releasing limiting beliefs and releasing the negative energy within and fully stepped into my intuitive calling as a healer that I was created to be. So that's my journey.
Thank you for sharing your journey. That sounds like a lot and a lot of dark moments, but ultimately you were able to come out of it and come out for the better. I'm curious about the stepping into your role as a healer. It sounds like that was more recent, or you tell me exactly when that was and what that process was like.
Yeah, so stepping in as a healer was literally a year ago. We're coming on a year, October 14th. When I lost my sister Trisha, I had started to have conversations with her. She would come to me, she would talk to me. I knew it was her. Everybody else in the family would say, that's just you trying to keep her alive. It's you really not wanting to let her go fully, and that's not fair to her. And I believed what they were saying, and I told myself that I had to disconnect. I had to disengage. I needed to finally let her go. But yet in my inner world, I knew without a doubt that she was coming to me and giving me these messages because they were meant to be shared. And I felt like I couldn't share them. I felt like nobody wanted to hear them. And I felt like I was really losing my mind, so to say, like kind of going crazy from the grief. And I started to go through therapy. I call it talk therapy just to differentiate between the healing I do and going to a therapist. So I started going through talk therapy and working through it. And my therapist said, Tara, you're not going crazy. You are hearing her. You are having conversations. She's engaging with you for a reason. And so I kept my calling shut down. Even though I kept being told you're a healer, you need to step forward, you need to start doing this work, I kept it shut down for the purpose of, like I said, when I was 8 years old, being accepted, being wanted, not being abandoned. I believed if I became who I knew I was meant to be, I would be rejected. My husband would divorce me. My 3 boys wouldn't want me. My mom and dad would say, you don't get to be in our life. My friends would disconnect from me. And so I continued to try to find out who I was supposed to be, even though I knew that this is who I was being called to be. And my husband was gone. He was out harvesting for sugar beets. This is a big thing up here in northern Minnesota. I'm sure it's everywhere else, but up here we have a season where they go and we have people that go and they haul for harvest. And he was gone for 2 weeks. And during this time, I received this email that was the most like radically received email. It spoke directly to me in the oddest way. And it said, join this webinar so that you can experience an identity shift to become the woman that you were called to be. And I literally don't know if anybody else was in that webinar. I still to this day think that that webinar was created intentionally for me by my sister Trisha. And I was placed in this webinar to go through this 3-hour session with this woman that then brought me to a meditation in the webinar. Now, prior to this, Chelsea, I always said I could never meditate. I've tried and tried and tried and not ever been successful unless I would fall asleep. When I went into this meditation during this 3-hour webinar at the end, I honestly slipped into the deepest meditation. And when I was brought back into the room through that guidance of the gal that ran the webinar, I was leaned over to my right side. I think I was drooling. I had fully went into this meditation of traveling down this path. I met my higher self. I had conversation. She said to me, Tara, you are a healer. You were created to be a healer and the world needs you now. It's time. And in that, when coming out, I knew when I sat there afterwards that this is exactly what I was supposed to do and I had to do it. Whether people left me, whether people didn't want to be in my life, I was going to be okay because I finally, for the very first time, was coming home to myself. And I was no longer going to continue to neglect myself and abandon my ability to step into the identity of who I was meant to be. And I had so much trust in that. And I knew from that moment forward. So that was that opening moment just about a year ago where I fully stepped into it.
That's really incredible, that story. And it sounds like your sister was really looking out
Yes.
for you, which is sweet. And the whole story is very powerful. I mean, obviously, that sounds like it was a turning moment for you to fully step into yourself and own your gifts. And can you tell me, what does that look like now? How do you incorporate that into what you do and how you
Oh
work
my
with your
gosh.
clients?
It has been a game changer for me with everything in my life, how I wake up, how I go about my day, just my own internal relationship with myself and the happiness. For the first time in my life, I sit and think, wow, this is my life. Like I get to live this. And until this point, I've always been trying to figure out how I was supposed to live a life or who I was supposed to be. So that's been a big change for me to actually be able to step into the happiness that I've always been looking for and the contentment, but also clarity on what my life is supposed to look like. How I implement it and everything else is I have 2 separate programs as well as I'm opening my own healing office in the building where our brick and mortar gym is at. So I've been a weight loss coach for over a decade, 12, 13 years. And so we have a gym. My husband and I, we operate TNT Fitness. His name is Trent. So that's where we get TNT for dynamite. And we operate our gym there. And within that space, I'm turning the massage room into my healing space where I'll actually be doing one-on-one in-person session healings. And that's where we do energy clearing, integrated energy therapy, where I go into balancing and clearing chakras. So all of the pieces of energy to help women to actually heal fully from the inside out. And that inside healing allows the outside of the body to also come into one and become whole and fully healed as well in all the ways that I can help. Obviously, within the medical field, there are areas that they need their doctor, and I never step into that space. That's them and their doctor's relationship there. And then I have online programs. So my online weight loss program is Bitchin' Body Revolution, and Bitchin' is BTCHYN for Be the Change You Need. And in that space, I bring my intuitive healing, one, to be able to fully connect with my women, to really understand what's going on within them. So for instance, I had a woman, just one of my clients, 2 days ago. We went in and were releasing limiting beliefs through neuro-linguistic programming. And instantly I felt like the release work was being blocked by something. And so I asked her permission to be able to drop into her body and just do a scan throughout. And in that scan, I was able to detect that we had discarnate energy within, negative energy, not hers. And it was actually blocking her ability to release these beliefs because this energy is living out its purpose within her. And so when we were trying to release the belief that I don't deserve to be happy and take that from her inner being and release it through timeline therapy, it was resisting her ability to do that. So when she would drop into it, all she could see was black and she wasn't able to connect. When I went through and actually did an energy clearing and cleared her of that, we then went into the NLP again, did the timeline therapy healing. She was able to release the belief. She was able to see it. She was fully able to drop into it and have success. So this intuitive healing really helps me to understand what blocks my women are coming up against. Because what I found, and I don't know if you found this, Chelsea, but oftentimes we have no idea why we're being blocked. When somebody says, "Why do you think it is?" I don't know. This is why I'm sitting in front of you because I'm hoping you can tell me why. And so now my women don't have to go through that moment of, I don't know. I'm stuck. I'm lost. I'm trying to connect. I can actually, with their permission, go in and help them to come into clarity of understanding and do something about it for them. And then I also have my program, as you mentioned in my bio, She Rises, which is my 6-month program in that space of helping women to unravel from who they've always been, which most of it is out of line from who they're truly meant to be, go into the upgrade and the up level of rewriting their program and becoming the woman that boldly chooses the life that they've been dreaming of having. And that's through all of the energy work and healing that I've poured into the program.
That's beautiful that you were able to incorporate all of your gift into all of those different avenues. I liked what you said about when you're working with clients, especially with weight loss. I do feel like there is absolutely often an emotional connection going on. It's a mind, body, spirit relationship. And I can see the benefit of intuitive energy healing in that space. Do you see that often with your clients, that there's absolutely a need for that? They might think it's just weight loss. I just need to lose weight, but really there's something a lot deeper going on.
Are so accurate in that, which is why I started with the NLP, the Neuro-Linguistic Programming, because I was seeing that after the 20 weeks that they were in the program, they had success. They lost the weight. They were shifting from that space of not loving themselves, not seeing their worth, to really beginning to see themselves in a different light. However, we just weren't able to sustain it at the level that I knew was possible. And so going into research and putting myself in as my own guinea pig of going through the NLP and going through the experience of releasing the limiting beliefs and the negative emotions, I realized how impactful it is to actually get within and find everything within, all of these boils and all of these blocks, and actually extract it out so that when it came to it, emotionally, they were so aligned with the woman that they were meant to be. And that gave them that ability to disconnect from their old programming, to disconnect from the patterns that kept them in this cycle of continuously sabotaging, to no longer feel the need to have food as their primary source of emotional support. And all of that internal healing, of that energy healing, the shifting and the releasing has been huge in helping them to be able to lose the weight, keep it off. But honestly, the weight loss journey is, like you said, so much more than the food and the physical piece of it. It really should be about healing our inner world, going in and connecting with our inner child, understanding the different traumas that are within our body that are the reason why we're struggling with our weight, the reason why we're struggling to be happy, all of that. There's a reason for it because we weren't created to be miserable. God didn't bring us here to be unhappy or to live a life of misery. That's what I used to believe. However, that's not the truth of it. And so we need to get to the basis, the root cause of why we're struggling with the struggles that we are.
I'm curious, when you work with your clients, are there common limiting beliefs that you see played out over and
Yes.
over
The
again?
biggest one, which does not surprise me, is weight loss is impossible for me. That is all, like, every single one of my women, even the women that come to me and honestly really only want to lose 25 pounds. And I say that like it's not a lot, because it is. When you've got 25 pounds to lose, that feels huge, just like somebody that has 100 pounds that they want to lose. Both feel huge. And so, even a woman, when we look and say 25 pounds, that's still a huge limiting belief that they struggle with. The other is, I don't deserve to be loved. That's a very common one. Any word with enough. Seriously, the word enough is one that I struggle to like, because I find it all the time. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'll never be successful enough. That word is tied to so many limiting beliefs that are impacting the ability of women to be able to show up and live their fullest life and be their truest version. That word enough causes us to step aside from allowing ourselves to be our truth and speaking our truth. And it causes us to put this mask on that keeps us as who we think we have to be accepted. And the minute that we release those beliefs is the minute that the woman I just watch her shift. I watch her eyes change. I watch when I ask her, what do you think about that old belief now? And she has to sit there and think about it. And sometimes they have to ask, like, what was that belief again? And sometimes they laugh because they think it's so ridiculous that they even thought that that was true, because it no longer resides within them. It's very powerful to get to experience it on my end of watching them realize that they don't believe that to be true for them anymore.
I can absolutely relate to that limiting belief. It's something that I struggled with myself for a very long time, and I think a lot of women do, many that I know. I'm curious what you would say to somebody who is still stuck in that limiting belief. Where could they start?
Healing is the place that I want to say, like, finding someone that can help you heal through it. And while I understand that not always are we ready for that big step, because it feels pretty big and audacious and like a huge undertaking. So I love the idea of starting with actually listening to yourself. So one of the things that I have my women do at the very start, even when they enroll into my programs, is getting a scrunchie, like a very loose hairpiece that you have. I have mine on every single day. And we want to physically, mentally, emotionally connect with the thoughts that make us feel yuck. And what I mean is, when you become aware of the things that you say and think, you start to realize how they radically shift how you feel in a millisecond. So, on average, every human thinks about 67,000 thoughts a day. Of those thoughts, 95% of them are done on the autopilot. They're subconscious. We're not even aware that we're thinking them. So that's like 64,000 some thoughts that are flowing through our brain without us being aware. And so when we think a thought, all of a sudden, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, if we catch that, if we are aware and we set that intention, today I'm going to listen to what I say to myself, and I'm going to note the thought that makes me feel this twinge within. You will feel the twinge. You do not have to be an intuitive healer to feel it. Everybody's intuitive. You will instantly feel the twinge in a certain part of your body. Every time for me, it's right through like my sternum area. I feel this twinge of, oh, that wasn't very nice. And if you think about it, it brings you right back to when you were that child. Maybe you were 5, maybe you were 6, and somebody said something mean to you, like, you don't color very nice. And you remember that moment. Again, I have a twinge right through my sternum of, that's not very nice. Why would you say that? Immediately, I become that 5, 6-year-old little girl that's sitting there, and my feelings are hurt. And that is what it is our inner child is surfacing. So when you listen and you hear that, notice, where do you feel that in your body? And then instantly, I want you to take that off and put it on your other hand so we get that physical piece to it. And I want you to reframe it. I am and always have been good enough. And say it with absolute conviction. Don't allow yourself to stutter. Don't allow yourself to question if it's true. You dang well know it's true. And you set that intention to be very, very intentional of knowing that to be true. And the more that you do that, you go about your day and you hear yourself say, or you hear yourself think, well, I'm not good enough for this, instantly flip it to the other side. I am good enough. I've always been good enough. And the more that you do that, Chelsea, the more you start becoming aware of the thoughts and the things that you say that are actually causing you to shrink and really just shut yourself down. And when you put this physical piece to it, along with the positive reframe, it allows your subconscious mind to start to take that synapses of the brain to go in and start to close down that pathway, that neural pathway that's traveled over and over and over saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And we start to close off that neural pathway so we can start creating and etching a new one that says, I am good enough, I've always been good enough. And the more that you do that intentionally, again, with that physical piece, the more you begin to know that within. At first, we have to start to just believe it, right? I just have to believe this, right? And then eventually it's like you just know it. And no longer does that sentence, that statement, that belief live within you. That's a perfect, perfect starting point.
I love that. I had a mentor, I don't even know, 15 years ago, who would have a rubber band and then snap it.
Yes.
But I love the switching it to the
Mhm.
other hand because it is that mindset shift. So it's a physical representation of what you're doing mentally. And I think that's so
Thank
interesting.
you.
That's great advice. Yeah, I work with a lot of clients, and initially that kind of like negative self-talk, limiting beliefs, and switching them into the positive. That's something that we always work through because
Mm,
it can be hard. If this is the story you've been telling yourself your entire life, it's not so easy to just immediately switch into the positive mindset reframe. So I love that practicality of switching the
yeah.
hands. I love that. I might steal
Absolutely.
that.
I would love if you use it because that will be instrumental for your clients.
Absolutely. I know we wanted to talk about self acceptance and self love. Along this journey, that's an integral part of it, right? Is self love. If you could speak more to that and what that
Sure.
transformation looks
Self
like.
acceptance and self love are, they seem like the same thing, but they're not. They're two different things. However, they're intertwined very, very deeply. It's really hard to feel love for yourself when you don't accept yourself, and vice versa. It's like if you don't accept yourself, how do you fully feel love for yourself? And I feel like that acceptance is such a hard boulder to come up and over because we look at ourselves and see all these things that are wrong with us based on imprints or societal expectations and how we aren't as perfect as the next person when we go through that comparison. And for me, with my women and the work that I do, the message that I'm putting out there is that when you accept yourself fully as who you are, all of your your weaknesses and your strengths, every bit of it is a puzzle piece. Every piece of you is a piece that's needed. And the minute that you try to scrub away a part of you that you think is not good enough because somebody told you that it wasn't good enough, is a minute that you start shifting that puzzle piece and no longer does it fit. And so when it's in place, you've got this picture that's put together that doesn't belong. It doesn't look right. And it isn't right because you aren't your truest self. So we need those pieces of ourselves that we think are weaknesses and maybe are weaknesses of ours, but they complement our strengths in one way or another. They make us who we are. So I work hard in helping women to learn to accept themselves. And that was a big part of my journey, was that to allow myself to love myself. And how it looks, one of my biggest women, all of them, I don't have favorites ever. One woman that I love to share because she has a story that most would say you can never come out of that and be okay again. And she has absolutely radically went against anything and everything anybody has ever said about her capability to come beyond what she's went through. She was a woman that was in a relationship, a very domestically violent relationship for almost 25 years. And when I met her, I met her virtually and she joined into my program and we started going through the healing work. And it wasn't long after I started working with her that I knew something was not right, that there was something going on. And again, I used my intuition to start dropping into it to understand what was the reasoning for the emotions that I had coming forward, as well as her reactions, her responses, and her outcomes. And I was able to tie in to realize that her husband was abusing her. And through the journey, I won't share all of it. She's given me permission, but I won't share all of it just for timing and the purpose of the message. She filed for a divorce. She got a restraining order. And after multiple surgeries that she had to go through because of very brutal situation that he put her in, she has now come up and out of that situation. She is doing meditation. She's speaking to herself in a way that she says, Tara, I never knew that I could say, I love you to myself. I never knew that I could speak kind to myself. She is losing weight, feeling safe to be able to lose weight the healthy way. She's working out. She got a promotion at her job. She is absolutely radiating and living life in a way that she never thought she would ever get to. And she says that, she says, Tara, I'm in my 50s and I'm finally getting to live life for the very first time. I'm finally getting to show up as me and be me and know that it's okay to be me, that there's nothing wrong with me. And we celebrate that so often, that she is making these decisions for herself, because in the beginning, she would message me and say, do you think it's okay if I take a shower that's longer than 3 minutes? Because she had been so conditioned to believe that she could only take a shower for 3 minutes, and 3 minutes, 1 second would result in abuse. And so we started where I would say, how long of a shower would you like to take? She said, well, I'd like to take 6 minutes. And I would say, okay, set the timer for 6 minutes. And now she showers on herself. She makes her own decisions. She goes to the grocery store. She does all the things on her own. Whereas before, she needed hand holding, and the healing work brought her to be able to make those decisions for herself and live her life to the fullest on her own accord.
Yeah, that's a very powerful story, and I'm glad to hear where she's at now. And it sounds like your work, especially in this story, yes, you are helping and healing others, but you're also bringing them to a place where they can do that for themselves as well.
I have to always be the vessel where I bring them into the healing and they learn, they do the work. I can never heal someone. I can only give them the tools. I can give them the guidance. I can provide them with everything that I know that they need. They have to allow it to enter into their body, and they need to allow themselves to heal. And so I'm the vessel that brings them into it, guides them through it. And my hopes is I open them to be willing and allowing to let the healing do the work that's available to them.
Beautiful. I'm glad that you're able to do
Me
that for your
too.
clients. Okay, well, for time's sake, are you good with doing the
Yeah.
rapid fire
Yes.
questions? Okay.
This is like, I'm excited for this. I'm like hoping I have answers.
I'm calling this now my cozy bonfire
I love it.
question round. My first question is, what is a book that's changed the way that you see
Oh
yourself?
my gosh, rapid. I'm supposed to go rapid. So many books. The Slight Edge would be the one that really made me look at things differently,
What is the Slight Edge? I've never heard of it.
about a different way. It's like just slightly shifting the way you think about things that happen in your life and taking a different perspective on life situations.
All right. Adding to cart. Next question. What's one habit that feels like an act of self-love?
My workouts, my strength training.
I went to the gym yesterday and I hike a lot. That's like
love
mostly what I do. And I went yesterday and did strength training. And today I'm like, oh, I'm very sore. I haven't worked out my arms in a long time.
Oh, hiking. I don't live where hiking is available, so I do flat ground walking in nature, and that's beautiful too. However, I envy that you get to hike because I love it. Absolutely love it.
I do too, and I live right near mountains. So I go at least a few times in the week, first thing in the morning, and I'm very grateful.
That's
for
so
that.
awesome. I think you should FaceTime me some morning so I can just witness it. I can witness your struggle.
I could do that.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, what's the first thing that you do when you feel out of alignment?
I say what Gabby Bernstein tells me to say, and every other individual, so this is not just me. I witness that I'm out of alignment with my power, and I choose to see peace instead. Oh, my most favorite thing in the world. I love her for that statement.
So that's just a statement that you say out
Yeah, in the
loud when
grocery
you're feeling
store,
that
when
way.
I'm talking to a cashier that
Okay.
is driving me crazy, I have said that out loud. I witness that I'm out of alignment with my power and I choose to see peace instead. And they kind of stop and take a step back and they think that I might, I might come over the counter at them as I'm saying that. However, it is such a great statement. You can say it to yourself if you want to. I am an like outward verbal person, which is probably very obvious by now. And so I love hearing myself say it and just feel how it feels when I say it.
Yeah. I'll probably say it inside.
I think you will, Chelsea, which is great. Uh,
Okay, next question. What is one thing that you used to resist about yourself, but now you
mm.
love?
Just my odd personality. I just honestly, there's no other way to explain it. I just have an odd personality. And honestly, I think it comes from having a biological dad, a stepdad, a mom, and then I was raised by my mom's parents for the 3 years of my life, and they stayed a huge part of my raising. So I feel like I was raised literally by 5 different people. So it makes me a mixture, a calico cat, we'll just say. And so now I love that about me. Oh my gosh, I love that about me. But it took me a long, long time to love it.
I relate so heavily to that, but I was also raised by I had a mom and a stepdad and a
Mm,
stepmom and a dad all of the things. And then also then you get
right?
10 grandparents, right? Because you have all the
Mm,
at least I did. So there were a lot of personalities and I used to well, this is not the best language, but I used to think I was just weird. Or people
yeah,
would tell me I was weird. And now also though now it's cool to be weird.
yeah.
Everyone now, yeah. I wish it was like that when I was in middle school.
I totally
But
resonate with that because I always felt like I was weird. And then you were supposed to act normal, right? Like be normal, Tara. I would say that to myself
mhm.
often, Tara, be normal. And now it's like if you're normal, you're boring. And the weirder you can be, the better and the more accepted.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying to now get weird so that I can do these right. Just
Yeah.
get weird, Tara, so that you can actually get views on the
Yeah.
reels, right? Oh my gosh. Oh,
That is definitely viewed as a strength now. So I'm glad that, well, I was going to say I'm glad that you're weird, but that
I
sounds a little
receive
rude.
that
But
and I accept that and I love that. So thank you. And I would love if you'd just be weird with me.
okay. If your energy had a color today, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I have all kinds of colors coming through, which doesn't surprise me at all. Honestly, for some reason, fuchsia is like just at me right now. Fuchsia.
Why fuchsia? Is there a reason or
It
it's just
just
coming
feels
through?
right. It feels happy. It feels authentic. It feels true. It feels wildly alive. That's all the things that are coming to me as I think about fuchsia.
I love that. Okay. And what is one scent that instantly makes you feel safe?
Wow. I don't know. I guess I would say being outside, like right after it rains, and the nature, how things just somehow nature opens up after it rains. That makes me, I guess, feel safe. I never thought about it making me feel safe, but I feel so right. I just want to stand there and be fully present in that moment with that smell.
Love that. I totally agree with that. I just learned that there's a word for the smell right
Hmm.
after it rains. Hold on, I have to look it up. Petrichor. It's
Petrichor.
Petrichor. Petrichor, which is the smell right after it rains.
I'm gonna
That's what they
remember that
call it.
petrichor. This is such a petrichor
So,
moment. I'm getting weirder, Chelsea. I'm making it.
okay. My last question is just what is making you cozy this week?
putting the final touches to the second cohort of She Rises. That's making me feel cozy and so happy.
Perfect. Oh, I'm supposed to think for myself. I always do this. I forget that I'm also sharing what's making me cozy this week. And you know what? I have said pho on this podcast like 20 times now,
Yes.
but I'm going to say it again. And tonight, my husband and I, we're going to order pho, which Tara and I talked about before we started recording. But it's soup. It's spelled PHO. So anyone who hasn't had pho, please do yourself the favor and get some. But I'm going to be doing that tonight. And that's what's making me cozy.
Okay, honestly, where I live on the Canadian border in northern Minnesota, I will not be able to purchase pho from any restaurant. So I'm going to make it because I simply want to sit there and say, I'm eating pho. That's what I want to do. So I am going to learn how to make pho.
Okay. Well, it will be an accomplishment if you learn how to make it because it is an intense broth recipe. But I know you can do it. But it's
I will
going to
keep you
takes time.
posted.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Tara, for sharing your journey, your transformation, and how you incorporate your own gifts to help your clients achieve their own transformations. And before we end, if you can just remind the listeners where they can find you and anything you want to add or share.
Yeah, absolutely.
One last time.
So, the best place to find me, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. When you're an identity coach that helps women reinvent themselves, your identity gets to be a bit skewed, and that follows in your social media platforms as well. So, reason why I share that, the best place to find me is go to my website and then click the links because then I'll direct you there. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So my website, www.Tara with the dash, like you'd find in a telephone number, Wiskow.com. So Tara-Wiskow.com. And one thing that I would share now is that the doors to She Rises are open until September 22nd. I have 3 spots remaining, and I would absolutely love to have a conversation with anybody that knows that something's missing in their life, that they're meant for better and they just can't find that way home to themselves. I'd love to have a conversation and see if one of these spots is the right spot for you. And if not, I would love to give you some ideas of what I think would be great to help you. And if so, then I would love to welcome you into She Rises.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will link all of Tara's socials, her website, the program. I will put all of that in the show notes. And that's all we have today. So thank you again, Tara, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.